But this is an easy occasion for me. I won't be cross-examined. And after all, what is the subject of my speech? It's Derek Wheatley, lawyer, and incomparably so. So Derek the Incomparable. And that's not simply flattery. If it were, it would be justified, because flattery is only useful when it's truthful. But this book that we're provided with today, a marvellous book. For barristers, and I'm not sure that many of those here, apart from myself and Derek, are barristers, but for barristers who have enough to read, more than enough to read every day of their lives anyway, none of them should buy this blessed book, because what happened to me yesterday when it arrived? Well, I managed to find time to read it and neglect the papers that I should have been reading. So, and why is that? Well, it's an interesting book. It's beautifully written, elegantly and stylishly written, but it stars a barrister named Tam Pierce. Tam Pierce, of course, is only a name assigned to the person carrying the memories of Derek Wheatley, which are reflected with a little disguising in each of the stories in this splendid book. When I was a schoolboy, I remember some silly schoolmaster discussing style in writing. I had no time for style if it involved any interruption in conveying the story. I wanted to get the story into my head. But this doesn't fail, this book, in each of its stories, as you'd expect from such an incomparable man. It doesn't fail to carry you through the story from beginning to end, impatiently waiting to see how it develops. And of course, Tam Pierce is simply a reflection of Derek Wheatley when he was a little younger and perhaps a bit less distinguished. But it's very interesting. It's very interesting for barristers and lawyers generally, because it reflects and illustrates the careful discipline and care for the discipline which has to be exercised in any memorable story of a criminal case. And here in these stories, you see how Tam Pierce, and you will all of course say, how Derek dealt impeccably and cleverly and with that necessary element of all distinguished people, luck, in defending people accused of crime. And very useful stories for every young barrister who wants to know what discipline and care, as well as luck, is needed in order to achieve the triumphs which this records for Tam Pierce, and therefore, as you will understand me and as I understand the book, you will recognize as triumphs of an earlier, a younger Derek Wheatley. What a marvelous book it is. But I have a complaint, a long-standing complaint about Derek. You see, he's not just, as a lawyer, one of our glitterati. He's also a civilized man. He can write in English precisely and easily and and without interrupting the stream of the story with nonsense and silliness and asides and that sort of thing. It's all there, and it's marvellous. And of course it does say under the run, what a marvellous man Clem Pierce is. And therefore, what a marvellous man I, Derek Wheatley. He will deny, he's almost getting up to deny that, and say an end to this nonsense. But my complaint is not about anything in these beautifully written stories. All of them intensely interesting to lawyers and to non-lawyers if they're willing to put up with education as lawyers. My complaint is this. We had in my small set of chambers in Lincoln's Inn a very eccentric but very, very remarkably learned lady named Sarah Coburn. She had been educated at St Andrews and then at Oxford. She had taught at Oxford before coming to practice at the bar. In her family, she had such notable lawyers as the Chief Justice Coburn of mid-Victorian times, and she had as her father a Marxist journalist. A remarkable family, all of them, but this lady smoked a pipe and had other eccentricities. Well, now, why do I speak of her as related to Derek Wheatley in causing me and my chambers irritation? Well, there came a time when Derek was director or legal advisor of Lloyd's Bank, and carrying there his legal learning, but also that civilized atmosphere which goes with such a great man. And Sarah Coburn was, in spite of her Marxist father and her Victorian Chief Justice great-grandfather or great-uncle or great-great-uncle, I've forgotten which, and she was inclined in that civilized direction and tempted by the atmosphere of Lloyd's Bank legal department, commanded by the incomparable Derek. And in due course, the scoundrel enticed her away, snatched her promise. Soon she would have, by this time, she's now dead, she would surely have been listed on our Chamber's board as Mrs. Justice, at least, Coburn. But there she went off to this magical place, Lloyd's Bank Legal Department, and worked happily there, but also wrote books there, books of remarkable style, very much lawyers' books, somewhat, I'm reminded by the short stories here, but you may even have seen those books on sale or have read them. She wrote under the name, as author, Sarah Caudwell, Caudwell, and shortly before she died, in her 60s, early 60s, unfortunately, she brought out a book which was then very soon adopted as a Book of the Month Club book in America, and the royalties from that came to her estate, and none of it to any of her past admirers in chambers. So Derek was responsible for not only stealing the lady who would have brought us great distinction, but he